Camera gonna stay this time. Boom. Okay, there we go. So it is currently a beautiful Sunday morning. Um, excited to share this with you guys. Gonna throw down a little weekend wisdom. Today I'm going to be talking about how to heal with psychedelics, and most of my experience specifically come from psilocybin. Now, I know I had said to some people, and through my Instagram page, I said that I was going to do a video about LSD. But upon further inspection of myself, I realized now wasn't quite the time. I needed to set a little bit more groundwork to really help you understand what I experienced, and even to help me understand what I experienced. Um, so, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, um, it is important to state that psychedelic drugs are amazing tools, they're wonderful, and they can do so many great things for you. But you can abuse them 100%. You know, it's just like Advil's probably a great way to relieve a headache. But if you take 20 of them, something's probably going to go wrong, right? You, you don't want to do that. So, if I inspire you to, take psychedelics and you want these experiences, just please be careful. Please use caution. There's so many different videos and books and whatever and what have you that you can look up, and just be careful. And most importantly, always have the intention to heal. And not even with psychedelics, throughout your entire life, throughout every moment, um, because that will bring you some pretty trippy shit, man. Let me tell you. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is your mental state. So when I talk to a lot of people about psychedelic drugs, a lot of the things that are one of the most common things that comes up is like, oh yeah, I want to, but I'm just scared. I don't know, like, and to be honest, that's completely normal. If you aren't scared when you're taking a trip, well, you probably have never done psychedelics before, or you're just a true master. Because every time, doesn't matter how many times I've taken psilocybin, there's always fear, because you're venturing into the unknown. That is kind of the point of the whole thing. So be comfortable with that. But even more than that, you need to think about your mental state as a whole. As you are going into the trip, where you are in your life at that moment. See, if you're someone who is constantly running from their emotions, you're hiding from something, or you have a lot of pent-up anger, frustration, these are all things that can create some problems for you while you're tripping. So if that's someone, if you're that person, maybe you're depressed, or you have some pretty serious childhood trauma, things like that, I think it's really important for you to address those things before you go into psychedelics, especially if it's your first time. And the reason for this is because even myself, for experience on my last trip, I had entered a space where I had to confront a relationship that I had with someone that I worked alongside, right? And I got caught on it for quite some time. At least it felt like quite a time. And I was able to pull myself out of it and, learn my lesson, do what I had to do. But if you're unfamiliar with this psychedelic realm, that can pull you into a really bad spot. Especially if that connection that you're making has a negative energy tied to it, right? You're going to continually pull yourself into that, and then you're going to get what's called a bad trip, and it's going to freak you the fuck out. Maybe, who knows? But yeah, you really got to be careful when you're going into these trips. And some certain ideas I was thinking of for you to help you confront yourself is just make a journal, right? Start maybe a daily journal, or just one night you just want to jot down your thoughts. Kind of get that awareness of where your emotional state is, because a lot of us are living in this kind of robot mode where we just think everything's okay and we just throw it behind us. What we don't realize is we got a fucking trailer back there, and we're dragging it with us. So we need to kind of inspect that baggage, see what's going on, and if you discover that you have some deep trauma, maybe hold off on psychedelics unless you have someone who is truly experienced and is there for the sole intention of healing. And that, at least for me, is something that I haven't found. I'm kind of becoming that person myself, or trying to. But yeah, I would say maybe psychedelics aren't for you, right? Especially if you have any pre-existing anxiety problems with, say, things like cannabis, right? If you can't even handle weed, mushrooms, it's kind of like, you can't handle the kiddie roller coaster, so you want to go on a big ass one down the road there. It doesn't make any sense, right? So, got my writings here. I think I covered everything on that, right? Writing stuff down. Oh, also, checking your emotional state. Meditation is very cool. Now, the other thing that is important when you're doing this is you want to set some intention. And I've a lot of stories on intention from my trips. It brought me some amazing experiences. But, right, okay. So, when you're setting an intention, it can be kind of one of two ways. The way it was explained to me was either a male intention or a female intention. Now, male intention is when basically there's structure. Like this, you kind of can put it into a box and like, this is what I want to learn. This is what I want to experience, right? So, like I would like help healing from trauma in my childhood, whether it's like, directly with your father or your mother, or maybe your parents split up when you were younger, and that's what you want. You kind of contain it. That's where I want the healing. That's where you're going to direct your energy. That's like a male intention. Those are good, right? Especially if you have a specific goal in mind and you want to use these drugs to help you get there. They're wonderful tools for that. The one thing about these intentions, though, is your intentions are very powerful. So, you could, if you set that intention, you could be stopping yourself from growing even further, right? So it's like you kind of put it in a box, and that can be helpful kind of for you to see it. But I would suggest you do more of a female intention. And this is what I mean by that is so one of my most profound female intentions was I was with my friends. It was kind of a random spur of the moment. They had mushrooms, and I was still at kind of an unbalanced point in my life, and it was a nice big stem with some blue running through it, just beautiful. And I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's go for it. So I popped her back, and at that time I always set an intention for my trips. And I was like, okay, I want to grow spiritually from this. Now that is a female intention because it leaves so many different pathways, right? Like your spirituality is basically just your entire consciousness, your existence. So there's a lot of different avenues you can go down with that one. And that's the intention I set. And, well, I guess it's story time now for a little bit. I had a ridiculously crazy time with that intention. And it started off, we watched a movie. It was a bit of a scary movie, and it was trippy and whatever. And we're watching the the wallpaper on the wall shift around, and that was cool. But so my friends and I didn't join, but they wanted to smoke some weed. So we sat in a parked car in the driveway of the house we were at. We weren't driving anywhere, but they were smoking their weed, and I was sitting in the back listening to the music. I was deep in my thoughts, right? And I had this moment, and I remember the thought. It came through, and it said, I create my reality. That was the thought that I had. And in that moment, I had all of my memories. It was like, it's like, those old style projectors where they have like the reel of the cards and whatever, and you flip it and it projects the next picture. It was like that, but just like, right? Like within like a couple seconds, my whole life had kind of flashed before my eyes. And then I got caught on a very vivid image, not a memory, a very vivid image of my ex-girlfriend at the time cheating on me. Like HD. Like I could see all the parts moving and everything. And let me tell you, that was not a fun experience, especially because, along with many other things, that was something that ultimately led me to break off the relationship, right? And that stopped me dead in my tracks. It was like, and I just shot down. I got in this kind of mood, and I was like, okay, guys, I gotta go. And I walked home, and I was just like, oh, thoughts were running around, and I was thinking about her and how I created everything, and I'm just like, what the? It was a rough time. And then I realized that I was depressed, right? I realized that, maybe I'm not dealing with all my problems. Maybe I need to try a different way, right? And it's been a long time coming since then, but I am forever grateful for that trip, especially. Now you see why I like the female intention better. One, because it took me down an avenue that I didn't even know existed, right? It took me to a part of myself that I wasn't aware of. On some level, I'm sure I was aware of it, but, consciously and, this logical way, I had no idea. The other thing I would like to relate this back to is when I talked about your mental state here. The experiences that I went through, they were very traumatic for me. They had a lot of negative energy tied to myself and to my relationships. And if you're not in a good mental state, or you're not used to facing those kind of emotions, mushrooms is not the place to do that. Let me correct myself. Mushrooms may not be the best, because I've had some experience where mushrooms presented those thoughts and emotions in a very pleasant way. But I'm also working on my mental state and emotional well-being every moment that I can, every second of the day, right? So again, just be careful, and if you want to have those prophetic mushroom trips, you got to respect the mushrooms first of all, and you really have to take care of yourself, because if you're not, and you're in it for the wrong reasons, and you're just in it to get high, you can do that. I'm not gonna lie to you. Some people do that, and it works just fine for them, but chances are you're gonna get smacked around a little bit. Mushrooms is gonna you can just go wake the fuck up, Okay, I think that covers everything on intention. All right, what do we got here? So, a little tidbit while I just add that: don't mix these drugs, especially if it's your first time. Some people will tell you that weed is a good mixer for that, and I agree and disagree. My relationship with weed is that's a whole video in itself. But I would say for your first time, hold off on the weed. Don't plan on smoking weed. And if a joint rolls up naturally, then you know what? Try it out a little bit. But just be prepared, because it is going to change your high pretty drastically, right? And that brings me into the next little tidbit here. That is your environment. This is a very, very important aspect of tripping, especially when you're healing. See, if you're actually, prime example, a mistake I made in my last my little story I told you there, where I just was off just a random, let's do some mushrooms, right? Although I was with some friends that I'd known for quite some time, they weren't in it for a healing experience, right? They were just there to get high. So when I went and had this moment of self-realization, creating my reality and realizing I was depressed and all this and that, I had no one to talk to. I kind of just got up and I was like, peace the fuck out, see you later. And for me, I was used to that. I'd done that for myself before, so I felt fine doing that. But if you're with people that aren't going to help you through those kind of things, and you're new to this experience, that can be very problematic. You can get caught in a very tiring and kind of scary loop, right? So you really want to find people, especially if you're going to use it for healing purposes, that are on the same page as you, that want to heal with these experiences, that want to grow and experience something new. So pick your people wisely. And at the same time, you want to pick your environment wisely, right? So if you're going to be at a house that halfway through, maybe it's a parent or a sibling or somebody where you have a very negative relationship with, or just something that's going to bring negative energy towards you, you want to try and avoid that, right? You don't want that in your space. You want to create a space where it's just happiness, chill vibes, man. um, Personally, the nature is a beautiful spot to be in. Of course, you need to be careful because for most common doses, natural dosages, which I'll get into later, you're not going to lose your entire sense of reality. You're not lost in some fantasy world. You're still aware of everything's going around you. You're probably going to talk a little funnier and then kind of be a little bit slower to your reactions and stuff like that. But you're going to know where you are. So if you're in a generally familiar area, you're going to be fine. But there is moments where you can kind of, I've had experiences where I completely blacked out and didn't know where I was, just walking along with my friends, and I had lost the entire night basically. And in one instance, actually, this is my second time doing mushrooms. I took 2 grams of mushrooms, and I remember sitting on my friend's bed, and the room was fucking going all what, and it felt like I was sinking in the bed. And then we decided to go for a walk, and according to them, I walked around for about an hour, saying, "It's just life, man. It's just life." So, and it's an ongoing joke to this day. To me, it's a little more prophetic now that I have more experience with mushrooms. But yeah, you can get lost. So you really want to find a kind of a good mix of nature, I think, and a safe environment. So don't go on some trail you've never been on before. Don't go with people that are going to take 5 grams of mushrooms because they heard that somebody saw a dinosaur or some stupid shit like that. Just take it easy, find a nice, safe environment, and everything will be fine. I think that's almost everything. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about is dosage. And this is a varying one because it depends on your tolerance. Depends on your mental state. It just depends on your body. And I've had experiences with 0.2 grams that were actually pretty amazing. They weren't your typical mushroom trip. It was a lot shorter, and it was kind of quicker, but it was still an amazing experience. Then I've had experience on almost 3 grams of mushrooms, like 2 grams of mushrooms, where it was just a fucking amazing time, and I just walked around and had an awesome time with my buddy. Like, there's kind of a vary here. So I guess the best way to do it for you is, if you're thinking about doing mushrooms, and especially for healing purposes, I would say you start with a gram, right? You can get a scale, a cooking scale, a little gram scale, whatever, at convenience stores, whatever. They're only like $20 if you want to do it that way. But get a scale and weigh up about 1 gram, right? Mushrooms take about an hour to kick in. There's multiple different ways you can do it. Make it in a tea, put it on pizza or a sandwich or whatever. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You can eat them raw too, but that's disgusting. Just fair warning. Tea actually is the best way to do it, I find, for getting rid of any gut rot or bad taste. But I would say start with 1 gram and have room for extra, right? This is the other thing too. When you take it, have a lot of time. They don't have to work tomorrow. You don't got any plans. You can just be high on mushrooms. So you want to take about 1 gram, right? Wait about an hour, hour and a half, and see how it feels, right? Get the feel for it. Have experiences. Maybe wait about 2 hours. If you feel that you're not getting all that you need, you're welcome to take more, but don't go and take another 2 grams because that's just a stupid idea. Don't care who you are. Maybe you could have a fun time, but I would not suggest that. You could try with another ½ gram, or just look at the bag, find a nice stem or a nice cap, pop her back, right? I mean, as far as a technical way to dose, I'm sure there's stuff out there on the internet, but that's not me. I'm more kind of free flowing, like just go with it kind of guy. And that's brought me to a lot of a lot of different places, and I think I've covered everything so far that I wanted to cover. Nothing comes to mind, so I just want to end this video with another experience that I had with mushrooms, and this is when I first started, and why you should be very careful. Because this is a funny story, but I mean, if you really think about it, it was super dumb. So, at the time I was just starting dating my girlfriend. I'm not sure, ex-girlfriend, I guess now. Yeah, had that a couple months or whatever. Heard about this party. I'd never really been to a party before. I drank with my friends. I just kind of us four roaming around my small town that I live in. But I was like, oh fuck yeah, let's go to that party. I was like, oh fuck yeah, I got some mushrooms. I'm gonna be some cool guy tripping on mushrooms. Like, what's up, dude? Just exploring the universe and shit. So I decided that I'd take about 3 grams of mushrooms on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. There's some good looking mushrooms too. Um, so I did that. Tasted awful. And I was at my buddy's house at the time. I was going to meet my girlfriend and everybody there. So we walked there and walking there and then feeling fine, like, oh, I wonder how this is going to go. Sit down at the table and I was talking to people and shit was going on. And then it was like, but it was, oh, you feeling it? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm feeling it. Yeah, I was feeling it. Last thing I remember after that moment was sitting on a chair outside on the patio, and everything was kind of just like coming into the horizon like this. And it was kind of just blackness. It was just gone. I disappeared. And I have tidbits of my girlfriend at the time kind of trying to get my attention and looking at people and just being fucking... I don't know where I was. I wasn't in myself. That is for sure. And finally, it was raining, and they were trying to get me inside, and the party was dying down or whatever. And my dad was coming to pick me up, and I remember I was sitting on the chair, and I finally kind of came to. I stood up, and it was one of those tiki torches in the back porch, sticking in the ground. And I looked at it, and I went, "Is that real?" All right, fucking grabbed the flame and burned it. I burned like 3 of my fingers. And then I couldn't walk. I was walking down the stairs, I was stumbling. And I remember everyone was in the basement. And I just sat on the wall. And I just was like staring at everybody. And I remember one buddy just laughing at me. And I'm just like, what the fuck? So that was, I think it's a hilarious story, to be honest. But you don't really want to be doing that, especially if you're trying to heal from these psychedelics, and especially if someone wanted to fuck with you, right? Luckily, I had people around me that were there to make sure I was okay. But that could have been a really bad situation. What if I decided to do something like that and go for a walk by myself, right? Who knows where I would have ended up? Right, talking to some stranger, shaking hands with a police officer, asking if he ever did mushrooms before. Never done that before, but that seemed like something I would have done back in the day. So, with everything I've got together here, I hope you guys like it. I hope I covered everything. If you have any questions, anything like that, shoot some comments. Throw some ideas from other videos. Maybe you want me to expand on something. And if I have anything more I want to add, I definitely will. So, have a happy Sunday, everybody. And peace the fuck out.